Hi, my name is Bob Flesher. I made this video to be viewed in conjunction with an article I wrote in Banjo NewsLetter magazine in the December 2011 edition called Bluegrass Pickers Learn Clawhammer. It's the first part of a two-part article, second part coming out in February 2012. Now this video is nothing more than a visual aid to help you understand the article. It's best to read the article first. The article can be found on my website, www.drhorsehair.com, and it can also be found on the Banjo NewsLetter website, banjonews.com. Now in the article we talk about hand position. You want to hold your hand in a position so that your thumb is going to come down on that fifth string right there where it crosses the tension hoop. This is for traditional clawhammer. You will see people playing up over the fingerboard, but that's called the round peak style. That's not traditional clawhammer. In the traditional clawhammer, your hand is going to be there. You're going to use your first finger or your second finger. Your choice, either one. I prefer the second finger. It seems like I can get a little more power out of it. And with that finger, you're going to knock down. It's a downward position that you're going to knock, not across, although there will be a little bit of a cross in the motion, but you're going to knock down. Now in this position, you also, in your arm, you want to have a little arch in your wrist, just like you would have when you're playing bluegrass. There should be maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches up to from the head up to your wrist. And if you have a hard time keeping that arch in there, get you a little piece of foam rubber or something like that that's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall, and just tape it right in that area right there. So when your arm starts to come down, it will touch that piece of foam, and you'll remember to keep your arm arched. It's important because later on we're going to start dropping the thumb down, and you're going to have to raise your arm to get your thumb down into the lower strings. Now, in playing the clawhammer lick, it's composed of two parts. The first part is the melody, and it's done with your finger, first or second finger. So practice picking, just picking watch your fingers and pick the different strings. Practice that about 5 minutes every day. Maybe play a melody with it. The second part is the brush thumb. And that's the way it's supposed to sound. But the problem in bluegrass pickers learning to play is that their thumb is usually independent in finger picking and used to doing it by itself, whatever it wants to do. But in clawhammer, it doesn't work that way. Your thumb needs to follow your finger. So when your finger goes down, your thumb should fall right into that little position there and should stop on that fifth string. Maybe putting just a little bit of pressure on it to keep your hand from going on down. So practice this about 5 minutes every day. Now, let's let the thumb make a sound. What we're doing is teaching the thumb to do nothing instead of what it was doing in bluegrass, but following the finger. But let's let it make a sound. Now when we bring our fingers back up to play the next note, let it just fall off the string. Not pick its string, just fall off the string. Practice that about 5 minutes every day. Now, we're ready to go to our clawhammer lick. Clawhammer lick has 4 beats in it. First beat is a melody note, the second beat's a pause, the third beat is the brush, and the fourth beat is a thumb. So it should sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Practice this about 5 to 10 minutes every day. You don't want it to sound like 1, 2, 3. It's got to be 1, 3, 4. Now let's practice some of our clawhammer exercises at the bottom of the page. The first one is what we were just doing, picking the first string. See the repeat notes? The repeat dots, I mean. So practice that measure over and over and over. The second measure is nothing more than playing the second string. Play that over and over and over. Third string. And although it's not on there, let's play the fourth string. Now, on your fourth measure, we're going to introduce a pull-off, and it goes into that pause that we were leaving there in the second beat. So, put your finger on the second fret, play that over. Now, if I take the pause out, take the pull-off out, I still have the same as on measure 1. Practice that 4 or 5 minutes a day. Then on the fifth measure, we're going to pull off on the first string at the 5th fret. Then we're going to do a trick that clawhammer pickers use a lot, where they will pick the second string, but they'll pull a string that hasn't been played yet, open. So now on the second measure of that little section right there, you're going to get 3 pull-offs. So let's put those 2 measures together and play them over and over and repeat them. Alright, now on the second line, the first measure sounds like we're going to use a hammer. We're going to the 5th. Same as the pull-off, except we're inserting the hammer, but it goes in the same space. Now, on the second measure, we're going to hammer onto the 4th string, then hammer onto the 3rd string at the 2nd fret. On the 3rd measure, it's 2 measures long. We're going to hammer, there's no brush thumb in this first measure. We're carrying a melody through there, so we're not going to have a chance to put a brush thumb in there. So we're going to hammer and then in the next measure, 2 pull-offs and a slide. So the whole measure would sound like my slide slid out from underneath me there. Now in the last 2 measures of the second line, we're going to do a slide up to the 5th, like Cripple Creek would be. And then we're going to place both fingers on the 1st string at the 2nd and 3rd fret. And we're going to pull from 3 to 2 and then brush the open. On the last measure, it's that old trick again of pulling on an open string that we haven't played yet, and a hammer down to the 3rd string. So the whole measure would sound like. Let me do it again. Practice these measures over and over, get your hand perfected, and then try maybe Cripple Creek in a very easy way. Try Gold Rush, that's another easy one to start on. And try your clawhammer lick in there, keep it slow, don't speed it up, and we'll see you hopefully in part 2. Thanks so much.